Hello, everyone. Welcome back to E20ZoneTv, and I've got the dream team with me today. With me, Athers and Walshy, mate. You know what I mean? And Rebecca's in the background somewhere, lurking. Boys, how are you both doing before we get started?
I'm all right. Mate. I'm a little more calm than the other day. I had a chance to calm down. Had to have many conversations with people on Twitter who seemed to not understand what I was trying to get across. And the point I made about the Vlahovic situation went completely over the top of their heads. So I've calmed down now. I've had a good night's sleep. I've had my 8 hours. I'm ready to go again.
Charlie, how about you, son?
I am fine. How are you? I know I'm good. I mean, it's one of those ones where I think we're getting some positive news. We might actually sign a player. It doesn't make up for anything, in my opinion, but I'm sure we'll talk about that. But we'll see. I mean, in general, I'm all right.
Let's get into it then. Obviously, Caleta-Car, we offered a loan deal with an option to buy at the end of the season, which got rejected. I see that yesterday or late last night. Now Marseille are dropping their price down. What the hell is going on with West Ham? Why can't we just sign players?
I don't know. I think it's I don't understand. I think like Marseille, from what I've seen, the French league is not exactly sort of in the best state. Now that Messi's come, obviously the revenue will be up slightly, but that may just be for the PSG games. But the French league football in itself was in a bit of a dire state after the pandemic. So I don't know. I know Day has just said there that no loan deal has been offered. That it's press talk, which is fair enough at that point. But even still, I think we've all kind of outlined before the start of the January window, and even sort of last summer, that Caleta-Car, we know for obvious reasons why he didn't join us. But ever since sort of the Ogbonna Zuma injuries before Zuma came back, we sort of said Caleta-Car makes the most sense. The fact that he's a left-sided centre half, even though he's right-footed, wants to play in European competition. He's young. He's a very good defensive player. Looks the real deal. He's big. He's built. His passing looks fantastic. He looks quick on the ball. All the good intangible things. So if he is the one that's come in, why that deal potentially wasn't ready to go on January the 1st, like I said on here the other day with you, before the Leeds and United games, that one to me doesn't make sense, because having that defensive cover in those games could have provided us with a point or an extra 3 points or something like that. So, I mean, again, hindsight's a wonderful thing. It may have mean that we've sort of, got more points out of it. But yeah, if that was the one that had been earmarked, why those negotiations hadn't started earlier on in January, I don't know. But if he was to come and the deal was to go over the line, and Marseille, if they supposedly have dropped their price for 18 million quid, I think that's probably a snip in today's market for what somebody like that can sort of offer you, if that makes sense. Like, you're getting a good player for a good deal.
Why do you think, Charlie, that Marseille are so keen to get rid of him? Like, they are eager to get him out the door for some reason. He's their first.
I genuinely think it's because of the financial trouble in Leeds.
Yeah, they're in big financial trouble. And if you look at it, if you say to them, they've got people like Kamara at the club and some other players, if that were highly sought after, if them selling Caleta-Car means they can keep Kamara, then they would probably do it, right? In the same sense that if we sold Jared Bowen, but it meant we get to keep Declan Rice, we would do it. That kind of thing, right? I don't think it necessarily is anything more than money talk. I think that's all it is. Obviously, as Tom said, like, the French league has been in big trouble financially for a while, and although it's starting to recover, they've had massive TV rights issues over the past 2 seasons, like massive TV rights issues.
You know what I was going to say, like, just to throw in there as well, this isn't a recent thing for Marseille with the issue as well. Obviously, when David Sullivan was in talks to buy the club back, what was it now, 6-7 years ago, they were in financial trouble back then. So this is something that's lingered over their head for a constant while now. Sorry, Charlie, Karen.
Yeah, no, their ability to maintain an actual decent level of football is actually quite impressive, considering how long. I mean, Payet was essentially, we got for way cheaper than we should have. You're looking at when Batshuayi, when we were interested in them, they had big money. This has not been a new thing for Marseille, and the French league troubles in general has been a problem, but Marseille in general have been in sort of financial problems for a while, and so they have to make tough decisions, and their ability to go and find another player. It would not surprise me if Marseille either A, already had someone on their books they could just slot into the role in the squad that he's having, or B, know someone they're going to go and get anyway, because they actually are pretty good at replacing the banging talent they let leave, you know?
I think he's right there, though, is that's the key thing with some of these sort of French teams. The French youth system is very, very good at producing players and bringing them through the ranks. You know, a lot of the time they don't go abroad to sign big money players. They do bring a lot of youth team players through. And as we know at the moment, France are probably going through the second greatest era of players that they ever had behind the likes of Vieira and Henry, etc. Then they're in a wave, and you know a lot of their French players are very, very good. So what they can sell, almost, it was like Monaco when they sort of had these players and then they sort of sold them on. I think they view it as, if we can get a profit for somebody that we didn't spend much on, it benefits us in the long run, because we've either got a good youth system or we can bring players through from other youth systems and nicking them. So even though, yes, it would be a massive loss for them, I don't necessarily see it as, I think that they will believe we can gain money from this, and then we can also come back up quite quickly, because they've been in and around the Europa League for the last God knows how many seasons, and they're still sort of getting rid of their worst or best players and then sort of producing up again.
Do you think West Ham are dragging it out in a way that they're trying to get it down to the most rock bottomest price they can, because they know Marseille are desperate? The only problem with that is that if another club comes in who's bigger than us, then we've got a problem.
I don't think it's got anything to do with. No, this is a sentence. Sorry. I don't think it's got anything to do with us thinking we can take advantage of Marseille's financial situation. I think we're just slow in general.
And my point to that would be, I completely agree with Charlie, but I'm surprised that Marseille are willing to deal with us, especially after sort of what happened with Payet, etc. I think that would sort of be maybe a bit of a tough bargain anyway, because our owners and their owners probably don't exactly see eye to eye anyway. So, yeah, I think again, if this was the deal that you wanted, getting it done early in January made the most sense. But I won't complain, obviously, if he comes in. I think it's a fantastic sign-in before the end of the window. But as we all know what David Sullivan's like, he does like to get sort of what he perceives to be the best deal possible. And sometimes that means dragging a transfer out just to, you know, low ball and almost sort of get it to as low as he believes he can get it, which is just a wild thing. Because I think, again, that price for a player that's coming into his prime years and as good as he's looked is quite a good deal. And by no means am I comparing him to, you know, the likes of Ruben Diaz, but I think when a player comes and he's got very similar attributes, I believe. And when it may be less of the leadership quality, but in terms of actual overall being a defender, I think he's, like I said before, the intangibles are good. So when you're buying a player at that age for that price, he's playing in his national team. I don't see anywhere between 17 to 20 million as a problem. I don't think that is. It is to us. I don't see it as being as much of a risk with that than spending, say, 30 plus million on someone who may or may not hit the ground running. Like, I think he has all the intangibles to succeed in the Premier League.
Is he going to sign though? Is he going to sign though, lads? Let's be honest. Like, because West Ham are a sort of club that he's just drag it, and then it just don't ever happen. This reminds me of the Milenkovic deal all over again. Like, is this man really going to sign for us? Can you see him signing on by January the 1st? February the 1st?
Well, I was going to say, what, 2023 or
probably, yeah.
I can. I'm holding out. I can. Like I said, all of me wants to be pessimistic and say, oh, we're not going to go good, do this and that. But it makes so much sense for the position and everything I've spoken about that it should happen. I think it will happen. And I don't know if I'd be disappointed if it doesn't. I think I would be disappointed because I know we do need that player, and that is someone that we desperately need. So, yeah, I honestly think at the moment, all the signs are pointing that, yes, it will happen. Fingers crossed it does. As Daya said there, the only way it can happen is if David Sullivan fucks it up. And that is the only thing I think that stands between getting the deal done and not. So if they're asking for 18 million, pay 18 million. I think it's a great deal.
What do you reckon, Charlie? Do we get this man? Is this man going to be the West Ham shirt?
Signs are pointing to yes. I've shaken the ball.
Yeah.
It's flipped around a bit, and then the little triangle says signs are pointing to yes. I think it's more likely than any other centre back right now. My stance is on who we're going to sign this window is the same as it was at the beginning of the window. I think we sign a centre back, and I think we sign an attacking midfielder. And I'm fairly certain what it looks like right now. The chances are is going to be Caleta-Car. It looks very, very positive right now, this second. Like you say, there's still a couple of days left of the window where everything can go wrong, quite frankly, and everything usually does go wrong. But ultimately, they seem to be in a state where Marseille are willing to sell. The price seems to be closer to what we're more willing to pay, which is stupid. I mean, like, let's say we've spoken them down from the 20 million to 15 million, which has been rumored, right? I mean, far be it from us to have a defensive crisis because Kurt Zouma gets injured and then takes so long to try and replace him that Kurt Zouma comes back as a good game, all for the sake of £5 million. I think that's utterly ridiculous, James. But it does seem to be at least a lot more likely right now than if you'd asked me a week ago, will we get Caleta-Car? I would have said no. And now I think I'm a lot more confident in saying he could sign.
Yeah, well, let's hope so. I've seen a bit of this geezer. I must admit, I like him. I think he's long ball passing and like crossfield passing is excellent for Marseille. I must admit, good in the air. I think he's made for the Prem. But if he doesn't happen, Nat Phillips is the next person on the list. What do you make of him, Charlie? I'll start with you.
Nat Phillips, eh? Interesting. Yeah, he's fine. I wouldn't want him. It depends what the price is. If Liverpool were like, yeah, you can have him for 8 million, then flipping out, go hog wild.
Well,
but
if this scenario, Charlie, if Issa Diop leaves and we get Phillips and Caleta-Car, is that an upgrade? Really?
I mean, yeah, because Caleta-Car's better than Diop, but
yeah, but we if we only get Caleta-Car and we keep Diop, we're going to have that anyway. And it's more the Phillips.
I don't. No, he's not any better than Diop. I think in reality he's shown glimpses of being better than Diop, but Phillips in his half a season at Liverpool didn't look any better than Diop during his one good season at West Ham. And that's my problem with the Phillips.
Except for the 2 games that he played against West Ham.
But Diop was almost hammer of the year that year. Like, we can't act like that didn't exist. Now, I'm not saying right now, if you said to me, if we had Phillips and we had Diop, which one would I be more confident in putting in a high level performance today as a West Ham player on the pitch? I would say Phillips, right? But I don't necessarily I think we only need one centre back, and that includes Diop leaving. If Diop leaves, I still think we only need one centre back. I think we're wasting our time flowing around anything else. I think we need a striker more, we need a left back more, then we need another centre back, even if Diop leaves. I think my problem with Phillips is this: he's not proven at all. He had half a season, and I'm not going to say he was bad or anything at half a season. He wasn't. He was really good. But the fact that at the beginning of the window, Liverpool went and signed at the beginning of the summer window, Liverpool went and signed another centre-back to play ahead of him, are happy to let him go. He's basically not seen the pitch since their other players got fit, which is the only reason he played in the first place. They're willing to get another guy who I think's on loan in the Championship back to play second fiddle if he was to go. Shows that they're not that particularly fussed about him. Now, that's not to say that he's bad for us. There are plenty of players that Liverpool aren't fussed about that would be brilliant at West Ham. Jordan Henderson. I'm not going to go back into that. Liverpool obviously fussed about him, but you know what I mean. There are plenty of players who play at the top level clubs who, if they weren't bothered, would come to West Ham and look brilliant, a la Jesse Lingard, right? That exists. But I wouldn't want to take a punt on Phillips, and I would consider it a punt for the money that's being touted. If it's for less than 10 million, all of a sudden I'm very, very, very up for that punt. All of a sudden, I'm like, yes, that's 100% worth it. Because if it doesn't work out, whatever, it doesn't work out. If it does work out, all of a sudden you're in quid's worth, and it doesn't affect our financials too much in this precise moment when we have 18,000 other things we need to do in the squad: striker, left back, etc., etc. If it's the rumored 13 to 15 million pound mark, you're good. You're good.
Tom, what about you, mate, with Phillips?
I'm a little bit worried about his injury record as well. I think obviously that's a little bit of an issue. And listen, they were obviously put in such a difficult position last year with the amount of injuries that they had in their first team, and he didn't do a bad job. Of course, he didn't. He's, you've got a world-class manager in Klopp that's going to make sure that he plays the way that he wants to play, etc. And I don't necessarily think it was. Like I say, he wasn't bad. If what Charlie said, if it's under 10 mil, I think that's a very good deal. I think obviously sort of, at the end of the day, long-term replacements, if we did get rid of Diop, yes, Zuma and Caleta-Car could be a partnership for the next sort of 5 to 10 years. But again, Dawson and Ogbonna are both getting older. So the under 10 million makes sense to me if you sort of have him in and around the team as a squad player that can quite easily come in, fill a role, do well. And I don't think he would be as much as Issa Diop, where Diop is so like this at such extreme levels of the scale. And then, with Phillips, I think he'd come in and be very similar to what Dawson does for us.
He's played in Europe though.
No, he has. No, like I said, I'm not knocking him. I don't, and at the end of the day, what's his face? Jurgen Klopp is always going to big him up because I saw he's seen him in the press sort of saying, I'd love to have him if I didn't have these options. Of course, he's going to do that because he wants the price to be seen as adequate for Liverpool.
But what I mean is he played in sort of, he went on loan to Germany, I think, and had a season over in Germany, I think it was. I can't remember what club it was. It was Stuttgart, I think. So it's not like he's just a youngster. Like, he has played at a level where I think he's a good signing.
As Charlie said as well, though, like, you got to think the signings that they made ahead of him, and also they signed the young geezer, I think it's Davies from Preston last year, and then they also signed the young Dutch kid the year before that as well. So they've got a few young centre halves on the books for them anyway. Not to mention, obviously, then you've got Matip, Gomez, Van Dijk, and also Konate. So, like I said,
he's a good player, isn't
he? No, exactly. No, that's the thing. So he's not really going to play much for Liverpool unless there are major injuries back there again. It's probably best that they cash in on him because they're obviously going to make a profit for whatever they got from him. Klopp's obviously going to talk him up in the press. And like I said, I don't necessarily think it would be a bad signing, but if that's the main signing as a centre-half instead of a Caleta-Car, I'd be disappointed. But I'm on the same page as Charlie. If it was under 10 million, I think it's a good long-term deal for us, for somebody that is obviously young and can be around and sort of... I see him as a better ball-playing centre-half because, again, he sent Zlatan for a hot dog in the Champions League. Like, you've got to at least have some composure to do that. Yeah. And I think that long-term replacement for sort of Dawson or Ogbonna kind of stuff down the road, it would make sense, but nothing more than 13 to 15 when you could literally just spend the extra 4 or 5 and get Caleta-Car.
Yeah. And I think the one thing I would say as well in there is like this idea of proven. I usually hate that argument. I usually utterly despise the argument of who he's proven in the Premier. I think it's a nonsense term most of the time. The reason I use it. The reason it is stupid. People are like, why would you sign this incredible European player? He's not Premier League proven. It's like, what are you talking about? This is nonsense. But I think the one reason I say it in this case, and for example, if you want to compare him to James Tarkowski,
can I just say, I was just thinking in my head, it just popped up like, don't sign Messi. He's not proven in Liga. That's the kind of
it's
argument.
The sort of nonsense people say, though, Thomas, and it pisses me off, right? But the one reason I would use it in this case is when you're comparing him to someone like Tarkowski, I wouldn't want him as the main signing. But if you're talking about him replacing Issa Diop, what's the point? Like, I don't see him as being proven as like someone who's going to come in and be as consistent as, say, Craig Dawson, right? Like, and that's why when on your show last time out, when you had the lovely Thomas and the lovely Lucas on, and I said that I would prefer Tarkowski, for example, that's why, because I have confidence that Tarkowski would come in and perform very, very well as a second choice centre back. If you're talking first choice centre back, it's a completely different conversation. But as a second choice, I would much prefer, because otherwise we're not improving on Diop. There's no point otherwise. We're taking one out and putting another one in, and there's no.
But with Issa, before we go on to Issa, if a good value comes in from Newcastle, is he worth selling?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. If they offered 15 million, I'd bite your hand off of that. On current performance, he's. If you put maybe like a sell-on clause in there as well, because ultimately they're not going to want to stick with Diop in the long term potentially, because if they stay up this season, they're going to reinvest again and they're going to be able to go get some bigger names at that position potentially. Is he as good as who have they got there? Lascelles, Dummett, Share, the likes of those? No, not really. I think Cher's probably their best centre half that they've got at the club. I don't think he's as good as Cher. But I think see, all around, I don't think he is. I think Cher's a much better player.
Cher's more. I have more confidence in Cher playing centre back. I'll say that much.
If you were to put like a 10-20% sell-on clause, which I know David Sullivan probably doesn't know what a sell-on clause is, if that kind of a deal that you put into the contract where we would earn if they sold him off again, I think 15 million, and that would be a good deal for us. I think. How much did we spend? How much did we spend? 25 million.
25.
Yeah.
I don't.
I think it was a little bit less. I think it was like 22. But yeah.
So again, to me, that's to say we all had high hopes, yes, of selling him for like 40 million. I know that, or 50 when Tottenham and Man United were interested and stuff. But I don't think 15. If you could get Caleta-Car in and you needed to somewhat fund that, so you could also go get a striker as well, which I don't know if it would be the case because apparently we've had an unnamed £50 million bid turned down for someone. Then I don't necessarily think it's a bad deal per se.
Right, before we get on to Issa, who's the £50 million mystery man? Charlie, I'll let you go.
Andy Carroll.
He's off the Brom, innit? He got confused on the way here. He just typed in West into the sat nav and went enter.
Who's this £50 million man, Charlie? You don't think it's Jonathan David, yeah?
Sorry, can we just quickly just say Andy Carroll / Jordan Hugill link up at West Brom? Is he still there?
That is an unreal shot. I believe he is still on loan there, yes.
Is he?
What a 4-4-2 that would be.
Imagine that. Head tennis all the way up the pitch. It'd be beautiful. Running riot. All of a sudden, I like West Brom. I'm off to Birmingham, lads. Let's go. Train goes past the station. Anyway, who is it? It's not Jonathan David. There's zero chance of it being Jonathan David. Who is it? I don't know who it is. I've got no clue. Someone random.
Calvin Lewin?
Maybe. It's someone we're not going to sign.
It's 100% someone
we're not going to sign. I don't know who it is. I can't see it being Jonathan David. All of the rumors that were going around before, and when the agent in the media says he is not leaving in this window, if we're then several weeks later going, how about 50 million? Like, it was stupid. No.
I know who it is. Everybody in the chat, you can participate in this. You guys with me, you can participate in this. He's actually here around all of us right now. It is thin air. That is what the £50 million player is. Not a chance that there is any of that been talked about. I do not care. That is a load of bollocks to me. As Alex just said there.
It is Jesus Christ himself.
It is Jesus. It is the baby Jesus. It's just I don't think it's true at all. And even if it was Calvert-Lewin, why would Everton accept when they're in as bad a position as they are now and they need to, I think Everton fans would probably, they're already as upset as they are now. If they sold Calvert-Lewin, it would be, I don't think their board are that stupid, put it that way. So I genuinely
they hired Rafa and all the
I'll back Rafa as a good decision. What they did is they didn't back Rafa. Mate, they hired Rafa Benitez, who is a guy who is well known for wanting a squad a certain way and like being very particular and micromanaging everything else. And they went, okay, here's £4 million, go and spend it. And so he's like, okay, I guess I'll get like Andros Townsend and Damari Gray. Like that's the bigger problem at Everton was not spent. And then the second he leaves, they buy like 8 left backs. Like what? That's stupid. So
yeah,
stupid.
I can't imagine it being true at all for anyone. I just think if it was anything, it would be like Alex said, and PR stunt.
More than likely, yeah, 100%. But let's have a think now. Like, who else is there before I get on to the final man that I would love to have at West Ham? Is there anyone that you boys think might end up at West Ham on February the 1st?
Is this likely, or who we would want to end up at West Ham?
Well, both. Like,
well, hang on. I'll just say people are saying apparently Everton are on course to fail FFP and do need to sell. I didn't know that. In which case,
they're on course to sell. They've got a very high wage turnover, but I don't think they're gonna.
If that was Everton, though, I think they would be more inclined to get rid of someone like Richarlison than maybe Calvert-Lewin. I think that one because Richarlison would probably be on a lot higher wages.
Yeah,
for me,
I think. What is it to do with the English players? Now you've got to have a certain amount of English players in your team.
Yeah, trained in the country.
Trained in the country. Yeah.
So basically, getting rid of Calvert-Lewin, who's a homegrown player, isn't he? That really, and you'll get rid of Richarlison. But is there anyone that you would like to see here? Like, obviously, we'd like to see the best players on the planet, but anyone realistic?
Mickey Smith just said, Gonzo said it's reported this £50 million player wants to come to this club but won't sanction it, so it could be Dominic Calvert-Lewin. If Gonzo's got his information from Claret and Hugh, I would take it with an pinch of salt. I know Charlie can be tight-lipped here, but I don't have to be. But if he's got that directly from Claret and Shite, then it's not true.
Yeah, 100%. I'm not being funny. Why would Calvert-Lewin want to come here when he could go to, like, Man United, for instance? Man United have been looking for a striker for ages, and it's just up the road from him. It'd just be ideal.
I think Calvert-Lewin would probably move to West Ham.
I think he would come to us, but again, if little Huey has said that, I take it with a pinch of salt. I haven't seen Gonzo's video. He only just uploaded, so I haven't seen Gonzo's video. My man probably called him in his article Dominic Calvert-Lewis or something, because notoriously he can't actually get people.
Oh no, Claret and Hugh are nonsense merchants, bruv. But I haven't watched Gonzo's video yet, so I can't speak about it.
What makes me laugh is, right, we can't find this money for Caleta-Car, but we can go and whip out a £50 million deal for a player
but this is the problem, right? It's not about where the money is. It's about spending it. Do you know what I mean? I might go to the shop. I have £10.
Do you know what I mean?
If I have £10, if I have an £10 note, and I go into Greg's, and they go, and I go, I would like 1 iced ring donut, please, sir. And he goes, yes, that would be 10 English pounds. I would be, you are a liar, sir. That is not 10 English pounds. And so I wouldn't pay it, right? I would wait until it's what it was worth, which is the whatever, £1 or whatever it is, right? So it's like, it's not that the money doesn't exist. David Sullivan, in his very essence, thinks he's a wheeler dealer. He wants good value for money. And so when it comes to the Caleta-Car thing, we have that money. We could, if we want, if they went 20 million, we could have walked up to them and gone, here is and £20 million. And then they go, sweet, and then we do the transaction. But in his head, he's like, nah, I can get this for less. And so then he just keeps dragging it.
Who is in charge of transfers in, Charlie?
David Sullivan, next question.
So basically, everyone's saying that David Moyes controls the transfers there. No. He's in charge of that.
Then Saeed Benrahma wouldn't have joined.
Yeah.
The evidence is there for all to see. It's just we like to ignore it. David Sullivan, I'm not going to sit here and say that David Sullivan has complete control like he used to. There is certainly there is a sieve there called David Moyes that has some sort of power to stop some stuff going through. But there is still, it is not 100% David Moyes by any stretch of the imagination. The problem is that the power structure of the club, it's probably at this case more of a 50-50 thing. And then both of these people, both are A, incredibly slow, B, incredibly indecisive and want to pull in separate directions. And that just adds to this level of just like waiting and waiting. Yeah, but it's David Sullivan is the guy who holds the checkbook. He's the one in charge.
Here we go, Lucas. Evening, gents. Seeing here we have another bastard Balkan coming. Lucas is going to have a shrine, mate. Trust me, over him. Big Caleta-Car shrine. But
it's going to be beautiful.
It will definitely be beautiful. Let's talk about some championship players. The man in the thumbnail, King Lewis Potter. I like this kid. I really do. I don't know whether you boys know about him, but I've watched a bit of him. Tom, what do you make of him, mate? I like this kid a lot. I think I love him at West Ham.
Yeah, really, really like him. For me, though, I'd only sanction it if Jared Bowen got sold in the summer. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense because he's not going to get regular game time. But if we were to sell Jared Bowen, not we want to sell, but if we got a good offer and we did sell, I'd think he would be a fantastic replacement. I'm literally, I grew up in, even though I am from Southend, Rebecca's probably watching the other room, and Charlie will probably tell you I'm a Northerner. He's a Northerner. I grew up in East Yorkshire, and I went to school 40 minutes from Hull. I know a lot of my friends back who live up here are all Hull.
Sorry,
fans.
Are you doing an Adam Frankel?
No.
I once went on the train through Hull, and therefore, I have heard of this.
If I wanted to do that, I'd tell you that the Kaiser Chiefs drummer used to go to my church. I mean, that's a lot of my friends are whole season ticket holders, and they really rate this kid. And I think he's exactly in the same mold as Jared Bowen. He looks very, very good. He's young. He ticks all the boxes. So to me, if only Bowen, because otherwise that means we've got Vlasic, Benrahma, Bowen, Keane, Lewis Potter, Lanzini, now. It just, unless you're getting European football again and you can play all these guys in different competitions, it just seems like a bit of a waste if he's not actually going to get on the pitch. Because they're going to want at least, 15 plus mil for him. So
I don't know, though, Tom. I think he's worth taking now. Because I don't think he's there in the summer. I think someone like, even a Leeds could come in for him or someone like that and just get him out of there. I think he's a talent, mate. If it was me, there's two players. There's a Brennan Johnson at Forest, who I like. I like him. I think he's a great talent. Keane Lewis Potter's not the other one. But I keep mentioning this Luton striker. The one who keeps scoring goal after goal for Luton. I can't think of his name. If Kent was here, Kent would tell me. He looks phenomenally good. But obviously, Diaz scored last night. What do you make of him?
I don't. I saw the goal this morning, but I just love the fact that the commentators, it's no longer Ben Brereton. It's when he scores now, it's Brereton Diaz. They're making it sound more, trying to get more South American.
He plays for Chile.
Well, it wasn't Brereton, it was Brereton. Brereton Diaz. It was,
Diaz.
But yeah, listen, I mean, he's young, he's scoring goals. I don't know whether or not it would be sort of less of a or more of a punt now. But I mean, he's scoring goals. The fact that he's scoring goals internationally and against sort of class international oppositions and stuff. I mean, Argentina's defense is not exactly world class, but again, he's proven it in different competitions. But is he worth the sort of reported fee? I don't know. Are you going to get that return in the Premier League? It's a step up, obviously, from the Championship, but at the minute, all the sort of signs point to the fact that he actually could be a very good striker. And like I said, even though he looks about 31, he's still young and there's time to improve. But if we signed him as our striker, would I be disappointed when we've got Mikel Antonio at the club? Probably not.
What about you, Charlie? Anyone in the Championship that you've liked to see?
Nah, I mean, not particularly. We have an obsession with that league. I swear to God, that's who the 50 million is. It's someone in the bloody Championship.
I don't know.
Mitrovic. That's who I want. I want Mitrovic.
No,
he genuinely, right? Okay, here's my thing about proven. Here's my thing about proven quality. Okay?
Proven that he can score 30 plus goals at the Championship every time they get relegated, and he scores 0 goals in the Premier League.
Listen here, you northern fool. Listen to me, right? Here's the thing. My whole opinion on when it comes to like being proven, quote unquote. I'm not fussed about people who are proven at my level. I'm fussed about people who are proven at the level they're at currently. So, for example, when you look at Lewis Potter, I don't even know which one it is. Potter, not proven at that level. Done well, but not proven yet. When you look at Brereton Diaz,
he's not Premier League proven, Charlie.
It's not Premier League proven. It's not Championship proven. There's a difference.
Yeah.
Right. So you look at Brereton Diaz, not proven at Championship level.
Brereton Diaz
had a good season, not proven at that level. Come on, Steve knows. And so you ask yourself this, and that's my point. We can, and that's my point as well with Ekitike, right? The Hugo Ekitike, the Reims forward that we're interested in. Good player, okay stats. Stats probably show that he's scoring more than he should be right now if you look at his XG, but all right. But again, this is his first time doing that, and I think if you're looking for someone who's going to come in and make an impact, especially in the financial situation we're in, where we've not got money apparently to spend at that. We don't have the sort of funds slushing around to make these sort of like extravagant signings. You're looking at Lewis Potter, whatever, and you're saying, well, 15 million, 0 chance for a guy who's done it for a single season. Like, he's slightly more proven than Brereton Diaz is, but he's still not. He's not doing it. So if you're saying genuinely,
Brereton
Diaz. So if you're asking me genuinely, if there's one player from the Championship I would sign, it would be Mitrovic. He suits the system. He has all of the attributes we'd want, and he scores consistently. Yes,
when in the championship,
shut your mouth. Listen to my words. Because he's played for shit teams, bro. You could put me up front for Newcastle when he was there, and I wouldn't have scored. And I am lethal, lethal up front. But that's the point, right? Is you look at it and you say, if he came to this club, he's got almost as many goals this season as he's played games. This is a guy who's consistently
championship.
Yes, but every time he comes up, he's playing for Fulham, who went straight back down because they weren't good enough. He was playing for Newcastle, who were on the verge of it constantly.
You know how
if you're looking at a guy, but you're missing the point. Look at the teams he was playing for. If that was Jared Bowen scored goals in the championship, we shouldn't have signed him then. This is the argument you're paying to me, but you've just gone, it's Mitrovic.
Is there a difference though?
But Mitrovic has been in the Premier League 3-4 times now.
Yeah.
In terms of seasons in there, he scored 3 goals. Even in shit teams, you would expect a goal return to be much better.
Sebastian Haller didn't score that many goals in the Premier League. He's clearly not that good.
Well, you've got to be honest here.
He's probably got more red cards than goals in the Premier League.
Yeah, and that's the kind of vibe I'm looking for.
Well, it's a good debate, this one, I must admit. But one thing Charlie has got a point on, when you look at Pookie at Norwich, he scores goals for fun in the Championship, but he doesn't score any in the Prem, really.
He does a little bit. That first season that they came up and he was there, he won the Premier League Player of the Month for that first year that Norwich came up. And yes, he's probably not scored more than 20-something goals, but I still think clearly he's sort of said he can score goals at a top level. And that null and voids Charlie's argument a little bit. Not all the way. Not all the way.
First season with Newcastle in the Championship. First season with Newcastle in the Premier League. 9 goals in the Premier League. Okay. Second one, he only played.
It said 3 goals.
You're incredibly incorrect.
I literally just said Alexander Mitrovic, Premier League.
First season in the Premier League with Newcastle, he scored 9 goals. Second season, he only played 6 games. He scored a goal in it, right? Because he went out on loan to Fulham in the Championship.
That's a great point.
Next season, he played 11. He scored 11 goals in the Championship, which is more than Mikel Antonio has ever done in a single season. By the way, more than Mikel Antonio has ever done in a single season. He scored 3 goals the last time he was in the Premier League.
Tom's hiding behind the computer.
I'm just saying.
Google tricked me. I didn't see the fine grayed out.
I'm just saying, when you play for, you can't fully judge a guy when he's playing for a crap team.
Yeah.
Me and you, Tom, were Haller defenders, right? Now I know you're probably going to change your mind now because you're a chicken, right? But I'm staying true to this fact, right? Look, Haller, right? He didn't score. Even then, he scored goals in the Premier League. But you can't always judge a player when they're playing for a crap team. You know, that is really, and when you're a striker, you live and die essentially by the service that is provided for you, right? Now, if you're telling me that some of the players we've had down the years, some of the strikers we've had that were all right, wouldn't have been unreal if Payet was putting the ball into them, I think you're a liar. Like, I just think, honestly, you have to look at it and you have to say, right, who suits the system? And Mitrovic fits everything we would want. And it makes sense to me. It makes sense to me. But again, there's not huge amounts, because the thing is with the Championship, and that's not to say never sign players who have only just happened. Ollie Watkins was a great example, as Jay Wood says, although Ollie Watkins did it for a little bit longer than that. Ivan Toney, another good example, who came into the Championship, did incredibly, and now looks like he's working in the Premier League. That's not to say you should never, ever do that. There's obviously cases where you should. But if you're a club who doesn't want to take that risk or can't take that risk for whatever reason, then you're looking at 15 million of, say, Potter, or you're looking at whatever. You have to be smarter with the money than that. And I don't know if, for example, Diaz for 20 million is a smart move. Ignoring the Mitrovic thing for a second, because that's not going to happen regardless. Just specifically about Diaz, for example. So Diaz. Then I don't think that's a smart move at all.
Yeah, but I don't know, though, Charlie. Like with Keane Lewis Potter, Brennan Johnson, I just named them two.
Yeah,
they are young. They are going to get better. They are they're not strikers, but they're wingers. I think you can do a lot with wingers from the Championship. The strikers are very few and far between. Like, really, how many strikers really do make it in the Prem from the Championship? Ollie Watkins and Ivan Toney, the only two I can think of off the top of my head.
Listen, David Nugent was banging them in the Championship once upon a time, and then he went to Portsmouth and didn't do feck all. But then again, he probably was 40 at that point.
He was 42, Tom.
Do you want to fight me about David Nugent?
Teddy Sheringham.
But I think you have to, again, people tend to judge people like in this sense, and I don't think it's accurate. I think you have to put if someone can be a player in one team, Messi, he's not been that good for PSG. In fact, I think Ekatike's getting the amount of flipping stats Messi's getting at PSG, and Messi is the
because
best
he's sharing
player.
the load between Neymar.
Is Tom triggered or what?
Messi is the best player of all time, in my opinion. And I'm not going to sit here and change my mind because he's not having the best season in the world at PSG, because I don't think that's accurate. You have to judge people. You can't judge people. Sometimes you have to look at it holistically, right? And say, well, there. So when you look at, say, Potter, for example, or Johnson, I both look talents, both doing incredibly well, both looking good whenever they play. Realistically, do we need that? We probably would need another out-and-out winger. Would I want to spend that money on someone who's not proven? Potentially, given the fact we've got a lot of other attacking midfielders. Would I want to spend that money right now? No, that would be a summer thing for me. I would wait, see how it goes, and then like the summer.
When you say that, when you say he's not proven, but Bowen wasn't proven, though, was he?
Bowen was way more proven. Bowen had done it for 3 seasons in the Championship. That's my point. Proven at the level you're at. I'm not fussed about someone being proven in the Premier League. That's not really too much of an issue in this sense. I'm saying specifically, are they proven at the level they're at? Bowen had a really good goal scoring stats 3 seasons in a row in the Championship. It was very clear that he was like, at some point, someone's going to take this punt on him and it's going to happen, right? And then we see whether or not it happens. But when it comes to these other boys we're talking about, Brereton Diaz he's done it for half a season at this point. Potter did it last season, looking good again this season. So getting to the split stage where I'm like, okay, I think that's a fair decision to make. But yeah, that's the point. It's not necessarily Bowen, because Bowen had done it for several seasons.
Come on, Athers, tell us, mate. That he just spoke in your pipe. Do you know what I mean? He's still not having it, is he, Charlie? He's not having it.
It's fine. We can all be wrong sometimes.
He's on mute. He's on mute and all. That's what makes it worse.
No, I listen. I back what Charlie says. I just can't get behind the Mitrovic thing. I just can't do it. I can't.
It's good.
No. Not for the price. Not for anything.
No, of course it would depend on the price. I'm not saying
they would want like 25 to 30 million for him. No.
Listen, Tony Khan's made the best wrestling promotion in the world in AEW. I'll give him 25 mil. If I get some more CM Punk money through the door, let's go, boy. That's all I'm fucking. That's all I'm fucking.
You must be pretty sad as a Fulham fan that you know most of your money's going to go on the Jacksonville Jaguars and AEW. That's where your investment's going. Yeah, I do agree. Bowen at least sort of proved that he could do it over a few seasons in the Championship. And, there was, again, when I spoke about sort of like the intangibles for Caleta-Car, what people said there about Brereton Diaz. Somebody saying that his movement is not good. At least Bowen was showing signs of he had good movement, sort of slipping in behind defenders, coming in off the left. Yes, he's not, exactly. Well, good with his left foot, but I think it's at least he was showing something that could make him successful in the Premier League.
Mitrovic, by the way, scored 7 more goals this season in the Championship than Diaz. 7.
I mean, Fulham have scored like 20 plus goals in like 3 or 4 games now. They're like,
and there's one guy to thank for that.
Yes. It is Marco Silva, the former Everton Hull manager.
Yes. Tony Khan.
So yeah, I'd rather go down the route of buying a bigger name from elsewhere necessarily than going down to the Championship to get one. I always feel like it's much better when you get a player from the Championship that, yes, they've got some hype around them. If we go back, right, Dele Alli, when he went to Spurs from NK Dons, whenever it was, how much was he, like 10 to 15 million?
I don't even think he was there. I think it was about
7 million, something like that. I like the has a bit of hype but isn't massively overpriced kind of deals. Like almost like what Brentford do, where they buy cheap and then sell big. It's kind of, if I'm going to take a punt on somebody from a lower league, I want them to be less of a major signing, but they can grow.
But ain't Brentford got that bang on though with the signs that they've made, like Umbermo. He's a really, really good player. I like him also.
Oh, well, listen, that's a different argument entirely, because then that comes down to the actual running of a football club and investments and, actually doing stuff properly. So they're always going to get it spot on because they're brilliant with what they do and the Moneyball effect. So, yeah, I just, for me, if I was going to spend on a championship player, I want them not to be an unknown, but to be a sort of talent for less and then watch them develop kind of thing. It's not to say I don't like players from the championship that we buy, like Ben Rama and stuff. What he has, his skills, being able to take a man, beat a man, etc. Like those kind of things in the Premier League will help you than just being a very one-dimensional player. Was the price tag worth it? I believe it, yes. But at the end of the day, I prefer it when it's sort of a lesser-known player that's come up and then gone, wow, look at this kid. He's absolutely incredible. You get him from League One, League Two, etc. So, yeah, I just think it's a big ask to be spending that kind of a money on someone that hasn't produced in the Championship as of yet for more than one season or since he's changed his name to Diath. So
yeah, I mean, let's be real. The real answer is the person that people are talking about in the chat. It's Divock Origi. If Divock Origi is available for the price that Divock Origi is supposedly about, the Divock Origi is the most obvious punt you're ever going to see in your life.
I got into it on Twitter.
Is it Luis Diaz? From Porto.
Luis Diaz.
Yeah. Now Liverpool have come in for him.
That famous Colombian name, Luis.
Yeah. Good old Luis.
James, we need to educate you and your Dagenham self. Luis.
Oh mate, he's always Lewis to me. Do you know what I mean? If he goes to Liverpool, because Liverpool come in for him there, does that open the door for Origi to go?
Yes.
Yeah, 100%.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
because their owners they don't spend big and they do like to sell and recoup some form of money from what they do. So yeah, I think it would. But listen, I got into this argument on Twitter yesterday with West Ham Brownie or Brownie Matters or so, I don't know the geezer, but why do
you argue with people, Tom?
Well, because they weren't understanding my point. My point was not ever to do with Vlahovic is gone, therefore, let's just go spunk some money on Cabral and see what happens. And it wasn't even about the striker situation in general. And I angered many people that were like, oh, well...
I have angered many people.
But these are the same people that were then trying to tell me what is, we can, Moyes has done it with Antonio for this long. These are the people that don't think we need a striker. So it's almost like arguing with
them people are bloody blind, mate. They don't...
Well, exactly. That's the thing.
So
my point was, if you identify a target, like, for instance, if we said Caleta-Car was a target going into the window, why has it taken 28 days to get that deal done? That was my argument. And I was saying it's about clubs that manage to do their business quietly, effectively, and efficiently. And it was never about Cabral. It was never about Vlahovic selling. It was never about what people were trying to say, oh, look, they're selling their best players to buy somebody else. It wasn't. It was the fact that they identified a target in Cabral and the negotiations were done 48 hours later. And yes, I know that they had extra money to sell, and people say, well, why do you feel like they need to sell? Because these foreign clubs are in so much financial trouble at the moment with what COVID did to them. They're not going to say no to 70 million. Do you know what I mean? We're a Premier League club. We shouldn't have to be selling players, especially the position we're in this year with Europe and everything else, the stadium, as they all keep saying. We shouldn't have to sell our best players to fund moves for other players. We're in a position where we should be able to sign a top player for anywhere between 18 to 40 million or something like that once or twice a season. I don't think that should be an issue for us. So when people were giving it to me yesterday saying, oh, you're wrong, blah, 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 it wasn't anything other than just about identifying a target and pulling the trigger on a target. And then when I said about Origi to this Brownie, he said, well, Liverpool aren't going to sell. That's just, you're just reading shit headlines in a newspaper and all this sort of stuff. But Jurgen Klopp has literally said, I mean, the guy's got 6 months left in his contract. Is he going to want to let him go for free, or is he going to want to at least cash in if they buy somebody else? If they get Luis Diaz, I would quite easily see them getting rid of Origi to someone. Yeah. And he's a good player. He's a great player. He's a great player. He may not be a long-term solution. He may just be a stopgap for a couple of seasons, but that's a stopgap that probably can guarantee you 10 plus goals a season.
It's not a bad stopgap, I must admit.
No, exactly. So for me, I don't mind the signing. I think he would fit in seamlessly. I think, again, the goal he scored against us, he's clearly got a lot of talent, a lot of technique. Yeah. He's just the kind of player that needs to be playing week in, week out, and he hasn't got those assurances at Liverpool. They wouldn't have won the Champions League that year if it wasn't for Origi and the goals he scored in the semi-final. And in the final against Spurs. He's a big, big player. So if they do sign Luis Diaz, then I would 100% see them wanting to at least recoup some of the money that they've sold and or selling Nat Phillips as well to help fund it, because that's how FSG works. So I would take him as a stopgap. It's a very good stopgap, but I would take him for the next couple of years because I think he's an actual striker and he's twice the player Antonio is at that sort of thing. You're not going to see him drifting off to the left and the right hand side because he gets bored going through the middle, And I don't even think we can talk about stopgaps and everything else. It gives a crap. If the player comes in now, this was my point years ago, and I'm going back years at this point, so I realize this is the biggest rehash of all time. But when we were linked with Baka, right, as opposed to a couple other people, right, and I was like, well, realistically, I get it. Baka was like 20, 25 million, right? When we moved to the London Stadium, that was the rumor, 20 to 25 million for Carlos Baka. He was I think he was about to be in his 30s, if not 30, and people were like, that's not a good long-term solution. I'm like, yeah, but if Carlos Baka comes in for 1 year for 20 million and fires us straight into Europe again, then it's almost worth it. It's almost worth it. We could talk about stop gaps and this, that, and the other if we want, but why are we and I'm someone who always thinks long term. I'm always thinking the long term. But realistically, if you sign Divock Origi, he comes in, he gets you 10 plus goals, we're in the Europa League again, bro, he's made his money back. Well, this is what happened with Pellegrini when he signed Chicharito. Like, Chicharito could have easily been that player, but obviously when Pellegrini got sacked, Moyes didn't want to play him because he didn't rate him as a striker. And I remember the goal he scored against Chelsea, or it was one, and and he was sort of saying, giving it like that to Pellegrini almost, or Moyes to say, well, hang on a minute, mate, like, I will score you those goals. And I see it in that vein, like, he is a player that can get you the 10 plus goals. We've had good
strikers at this club, but we just don't use them. That's the problem. We've got good players who've played for us, and I agree with you on the Haller thing. People who knock Haller, I thought Haller was all right. I thought, he's a miserable sod, but you know what I mean?
I was going to say, well, not at the minute when he's got Anthony feeding him every 5 seconds and Tadic, etc. But no, I agree. If we had any other manager other than David Moyes at that point to actually play to Haller's strengths, he would have easily succeeded. He's a class player. He really is. And I mean, you don't just do that. Yes, maybe the Eredivisie is obviously not a good standard, but I mean, the guy broke records this year and as many goals in the group stage in his debut season, something like that. Like, he's a fantastic, fantastic player if he gets the service and he plays in the right system. And yes, ultimately, that wasn't it for him at West Ham. So fair enough. We move on. Now replace him, which we still haven't done.
Let me ask you both this quickly before we wrap it up. Joe, we've mentioned about Caleta-Car, Origi. What happens in the Europa League? Are they cup tied or
no? They removed that rule a couple of seasons ago. It was the year after Aubameyang went to Arsenal and he played for Dortmund in the Champions League, and I think the year after that they removed the rule so you can play in different competitions in Europe, I believe. Anyway, I don't think it's an issue at all.
What about Caleta-Car though? Because he's played in the Europa League with Marseille.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, but I think it was about 3 or 4 years ago that they abolished that rule in which you can play across competitions, especially because if it's a group stage and then the knockout stage, I think as long as he didn't maybe play a knockout game with them, I don't know if that's what the rule was, but I know that they changed something to do with the rule because I remember when Aubameyang came, they changed the rule around a bit.
Charlie.
All I would say is this: I don't think it matters. Even if he is cup tied, that's fine. We'll just play.
Even if he's cup tied, even if he's available to play, it will be Dawson and Zuma.
But even if he is, just play Dawson and Zuma in the cup. I'm not fussed about that. Do you know what I mean? It's fine with me.
Charlie, I asked Tom this the other day. I'm going to ask you this: how many players do we sign, mate? Before
2. I'm still confident on 2. I've said it from the beginning. I'm still confident. We signed an attacking midfielder and we signed a centre back. I've said it literally from before the window to now, and I still 100% back that. Will we sign a striker? No. We'll sign a centre back and we'll sign an attacking midfielder.
Do you know what I would say before I go? Before I leave. I'm leaving.
I am leaving after this statement.
Before we go. Is if I was Jesse Lingard, I'd tear up the remainder of my contract to Man United.
Yeah, I agree on that. I really do. I'm with you on that.
I apparently there's rumblings that a few players are pissed at the treatment that he's got there. If he really wants out and they're stopping it because they see him as a rival for us and whatnot, and they're not going to let him go for, 50 million or something that they were quoting people the other day just to ward off any interest, I'd rip my contract up. I think he's been treated so badly there the past few years.
How much do you reckon he's left on his contract?
6 months.
6 months.
So what's that? Maybe like about what, $100,000 a week, maybe, or something. It's probably a couple of million, I imagine, that he's probably due. Maybe in bonuses if he ever got to them and stuff like that.
What is it, about 5-7 million, something like that? Would you say? Or was it less?
I'd say less than that. I think like Ronaldo and Messi and that are on like 20 odd million a year. So
if he's on $100,000 a week, let's say 5 weeks in a month, times that by 6, so 3 mil ish.
So really, then, if he was to tear his contract up and say, right, like, or buy out of his own contracts, if he can do that, then
I know Gio said this. I watched Gio's video yesterday on it, and listen, I was never angry at Lingard for staying last summer, and I know it gets boring and people don't want to talk about Lingard and stuff, and I understand that, but I don't feel bad for him, like in terms of I know why he wanted to stay, and when you're given assurances for the club that you love that you're going to get some game time, no wonder he stayed. But now,
he's a fan, isn't he, though, Tom?
Exactly, but they're taking the piss out of him, genuinely. Yeah. When I said this, I think, on your show the other day, when they needed people to perform for them under Ollie, why not play the one person that knows the club inside out and will play for your badge? Bruno was going through such a dip in form. You know, he gets somebody that actually knows the club inside out and will probably leave his, blood, sweat and tears on the pitch for a Man United badge. I think the treatment of him has been so bad. Apparently Rashford's all pissy at the fact of what they've done to him, and that's why PSG potentially are interested in Rashford if Mbappe goes to Real Madrid. If I was Lingard, I don't know. There's only so much you can take before you snap.
Surely you can go to a players' union there and say, like, they're stopping me from moving.
I don't think he's not
putting a transfer request.
Yeah, because I don't think he wants to disrespect the club, which, again, I understand, but I just think the treatment of him to stop him from going, because, I mean, to be fair, I said this to Rebecca the other day, it says more about us, the fact that they see us as a top 4 rival and don't want to sell it to him, to us now. But as people were saying on Twitter, well, if that's the case and you want Declan Rice, we'll have 250 million, please, and Lingard coming in the other direction. So it works both ways. I do feel...
I wouldn't do no business with Man United when it comes to Rice. I really wouldn't. Not after all this. Not the way they've treated us with Lingard. Just be honest.
I'm getting to the point where I actually feel sorry for Jesse, because you could tell how much, when he came to us last January, how much the guy wanted to play football, and he proved that on the pitch. And I was gutted when we didn't sign him, and I feel gutted for him now that he's having this treatment. If he said, I either want game time or let me go, and they're telling him not, I do feel sorry for him, because I think he's not one of these like Anthony Martial that said, I won't play, I won't come on the bus and that. He's going about it quietly and everything else. And I do feel a little bit sorry for him.
But is this his own fault, though, Charlie, with Lingard, in a way? Because he could have just said, you know what, I want to leave. I want a new challenge. I want to go. Like, what's going on, basically? Like, and for some reason, he's still there. Like, if you really wanted to leave, you just go, right, they're disrespecting me in a way. I'm going to put in a transfer request.
I feel like it would be almost similar with, I'm not calling Jesse a one-club man by any stretch of imagination, but for me, it would almost be like someone like a Mark Noble or somebody else maybe that was in the prime of their career and then said, I need to go get more game time. And then we've just gone, no, because we don't want to sell you to a top 4 rival or something like that. Like, it just, I don't know. I just feel like, and the thing is, they've got previous, because the same thing happened with Donny van der Beek. It's like they I'm not saying at all they're a similar player, but instead of getting rid of them, they want to keep them. But for what? They're not getting on the pitch. But that's Man United all over. That's what they're like. They're, they always think they can have their cake and eat it. They don't care if somebody rots on the bench because they're, the first or second biggest brand in world football. They don't give a shit.
Yeah, I agree. What do you reckon, Charlie?
I don't feel anywhere near as strong as Thomas does about that fact, but
it's been a tough day. You've talked to me about Mitrovic, and I have got overzealous.
Yeah, no one talked to you about Mitrovic the other day, and when I clicked on the stream, you were going on about how Man United fans need to pipe down on all this other stuff. But also, he's no Mitrovic, is he? Look, it is what it is. It is what it is. We move on. Like, I'm just excited for the end of it, so we no longer have to talk about Jesse Lingard joining West Ham.
Yeah, I agree.
That's all I want at this point. I really don't care. I don't want him to join right now. I don't think we need him. I don't think we need him right now. Would he improve us? Yes, of course he would. But that is, as anyone would improve us. That's the point. If you have more people in your squad to use who are good, then obviously you are better as a team. Manchester City have depth in every position. There's a reason for this, right? So, like, I don't think would he improve us? Yes, of course he would. But do we need him? Nah, not really. If it comes around to the summer and he's on a free transfer and we feel like we need an attacking midfielder at that point, free transfer is something that's a lot more dealable than what Man United have been asking for it. Is it his fault? No. I mean, yes, but also no. But also, should he have known? Yes, but also I don't blame him for that. It's one of those situations where it's so laced with personal feelings that it's like it really isn't like I really can't blame anyone either way for the way it's ended up playing out. I just hope to God it's over soon. I would almost sign him this window just so we don't have to talk about it anymore.
Before we go, apparently X has just done an update on the Patreon. There's 3 things. One, and West Ham have confirmed it, Anang obviously went on loan to Stevenage, has joined St Patrick's Athletic in Ireland. So that looks maybe he's not as what he was cut out to be. Secondly, the £50 million bid for a striker apparently was true. So maybe Calvert-Lewin is that person. And then thirdly even, it looks apparently or sounds like Marseille are desperate for money, and that would obviously sanction Diop going to Newcastle and then Caleta-Car coming here. So,
but is that an upgrade? That's the only thing I can't. One thing I will say, yeah, you get Caleta-Car in. I understand that, great, but we're still one defender down, ain't we?
Not really. I mean, but we're one defender down could do something. This is the thing we all need to realise as football fans, and we never do. This conversation comes up so often with West Ham, and it pisses me off, right? We're only in trouble because our two best centre-backs got injured at once. If they both didn't get injured, it wouldn't be an issue. If you play Bonner with Dawson or Zuma with Dawson or Zuma even with Diop or whatever, there's all these different combinations that meant you didn't have to play both Dawson and Diop, who also, by the way, if you forget, did well in Europe, then all of a sudden we don't really need to have this conversation. If we sign Caleta-Car, you could let Diop go because we have the numbers. And as Tom was about to say before I decided that you should not listen to him because he's not worth listening to, Elise, there are people who exist in the youth academy who have like Elise and Baptiste, right? They're people who are there and exist. We do like if we sign, and this is not from Phillips. If we're signing someone with that age, then he's just standing directly in the way of Elise. Okay, fine. It's the same problem we have with when we signed David Martin, for example. That just stands in the way of Anani and Trott. There's all these problems. If we want our youth players to come through, then we don't need
Darren Randolph standing in the way of our youth players coming through.
Yeah. Like we shouldn't put things in the way of them that don't need to be there, you know?
On current form, what I would say is, do I believe that Elise would do a worse job than Issa Diop? No, I don't. I think the way that Diop's performed, he doesn't even, if we weren't in as bad a situation as what we was, I don't think, yes, obviously he's the senior player, but I don't think he should start. Not only, I mean, we've spoken about it so many times here, James. And I'm sure Charlie's the same. After that first season he was nearly hammer of the year. He was so good. And when the 2 centre halves went down, we thought, right, this is it. Grab the ball by the horns. This is your chance to be successful in the team. This is it. You stake your place again. And all of a sudden, Zuma has a partner again, and we can go back to being all happy. And Diop's the best thing since sliced bread. But he's wasted that for me. He's been nothing short of woeful. He has looked championship standards.
I'm gutted,
how
mate.
Bad he's looked. So am I, because I really. I mean, Charlie doesn't feel the same way, obviously, but I really wanted it to work out for him because I thought we had such a good player on our hands, but he's been nothing short of diabolical since they both went down injured, and I would have no issue. He's been as
good as Dawson.
Oh, Charles.
And I love Dawson. Listen, nothing makes me happier than seeing Craig Dawson on the pitch because I'll be real. That means someone's getting kicked.
I don't know why I'm surprised, James.
That means someone's getting kicked. That means someone is getting booted, and I'm all for that. And if you said to me, which one of the two would you rather play? I would say Dawson because someone's getting kicked. And I like that, James. I want to see a man get booted, ideally in the head. I'm here for it.
Diop has made Dawson look world class.
What I would say is this: we all
You
have
just
this
talk
idea.
over-
I've got to get you on the opinion show. These two are the next two on the opinion show.
Somehow a bad footballer.
Well, James,
and all
we've
this
been
other
doing
stuff.
this for the last
And yet,
8 years.
realistically, when you look at him next to Craig Dawson, they
James.
literally were putting in the same levels of
James
performances.
helped it. We've
And
been
James,
doing
what I would
this
end
since
this, and
2015.
probably I would recommend ending the show with, is this.
Just-
Aleksandar Mitrovic has played 25 games in the Championship this year. He has scored 27 goals and has 7 assists. Find me someone who has better stats than that, and maybe, just maybe, I'll agree with you that he's not the guy. But
Right.
when you look at
You've
someone
done it
who
now,
has
son.
all of the stats, has all of the technique,
No.
has all of the tactics that we want, and he sat there, then, bruv, tell me I'm wrong.
Charlie,
Tell me I'm wrong.
Charlie, I will Land's End penknife you. Stop it. This is, by the way, before anybody gets triggered, this is actually just for opening things. It's not actually a knife that I do things with. This is for opening packages.
Tom,
and
you haven't got to
parcels.
explain yourself, mate. I know, like, you don't have to explain.
You don't have to explain how you
Listen,
use
my
a
top
knife.
drawer is wild. I have an highlighter pen, a knife, remotes,
He's
pictures
gonna
of
write
my
a book.
dad and me when I was younger, all kept in the same drawer as a knife. I don't know.
Tom, just real quick question. What have you got there? A knife.
No.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Anyway, James.
But at the end of the day, though, right, sort of coming towards the end of it, right, I understand what you're saying about the youth, but Longello's could be on the verge of going to Forest for £1 million. What do you make of that?
I don't mind that. I like that. I think having watched how Forest were against their Arsenal game, clearly I think it was the right back. Was it the Spence that they had playing right back in there? Clearly, that's an area that the manager, who looks like he's high as a kite the whole time, loves to play. I can't remember his name, but he just
Steve
Cooper.
Steve.
That's it. Steve Cooper. Yeah, he's
Cooper,
my man is he's a freaky warrior.
He is one freaky man, honestly. Like.
Yeah, but clearly that's the kind of attacking style that he plays, and I think Longello fits that system exactly, kind of how they look to do it down the right hand side as well. So I actually think that could actually look like a good loan move. Again, Championship standard, so it's a chance for him to prove himself there as well. You know, he could go there and flop like Meepo did at Huddersfield, and then he gets sent out to League One. But I think it's good, because if it works out for him, maybe if we don't sign a left back because I don't necessarily think, I think striker and centre halves are the priority. Then if he has a good 6-month loan deal, all of a sudden when he comes back, right, we don't need to buy a left back again. We've got someone for the future. So I think if he goes there, I think it would genuinely suit how Forest want to play, having seen what that Spence did against Arsenal, because I thought he was sensational.
He was brilliant, mate. Yeah.
Right hand side. I think Longello could be like that for them.
Yeah, he was really good, that Spence, I must admit. And he ain't even their player, he's a Middlesbrough player, so that's fun. He's got him on loan. But right, we'll wrap it up there. The boys have had a good debate. I've got to get them on the opinion show, the pair of them. That'd be interesting, I must admit.
We all know what I'll say, and it'll just get Tom really bad.
It would get Tom like triggered straight away.
Rice is overrated. Next question, sir.
Well, we'll save that for the opinion show. I can get the boys on. Charlie, thank you for coming on today, mate. I really do appreciate your time, mate. And Tom, appreciate you coming on, mate. You've been triggered today.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah.
Mitrovic. Up the boy. Come on.
I mean,
you
in the chat.
The last thing you'll see before you die is that.
Land's End.
You know what I mean? Well, let's get into the East End, Mitrovic, if you've heard of it.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean?
No, because now Charlie will just do what he did with Hugo, and he will try to summon it. He will summon it with his power.
On.
Yeah, but you know,
we're all wrong sometimes, unless you're me. Let's go. Deploy the boys. Come on.
Oh God, a wild Lucas is now going to appear in the chat with just DLP. DLP, deploy the boys. No, DTB. Fuck me, I need some sleep. DTB.
Right, that's enough from us. Anyway, if you've enjoyed this stream, please subscribe to the channel. Please like the video, goes a long way, helps me out greatly. I'll be back again soon to do some more stuff over the weekend. Hopefully Caleta-Car is arriving. Mitrovic is still in Fulham somewhere. Let me have him. Right. burgers or something.
Asleep and not listening to this stream.
Mitrovic is not in the country, and we can get in a couple of players. Do you know what I mean? If we can get 2 players in, I'll be over the moon. If we can get 3 players in, I think we mean business. But we will see what happens. Take care, everyone. All the best, and come on, you.
Deploy the boys.
Stay safe. Love your lives.
Bring in Mitrovic. Charlie says so.
Come on.